love you. Hey, why was 6 afraid of 9?
Why is that?
Because 9, 8, 7. Fuck this year.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! Yay!
That probably sounds terrible to you.
No, yeah, it always sounds terrible. We have bad equipment. We don't have like star professional gear.
Hey, we got, these are pretty decent microphones. Don't knock them. It's okay, baby. It's okay. He didn't mean it.
They're good. They are good for amateurs, but, hopefully the new year sees a boost in profit for both of us, and we could build a sound stage.
Yeah,
put it in your backyard.
I was thinking, that's a good 5 to 10 year plan. That's what
I feel like we could just put up a bad shack in your backyard. And
I do have a shack back there. It would be pretty hard to make soundproof though, because those walls are thin.
Yeah, it's fair.
They're pretty thin.
Boosting revenue.
But we could maybe build something that would be fun. But we'd have to get
It'd be a fun project.
Some silent fans in there or something. Especially in the summer. But that's after we all get vaccinated.
Yeah. This year has been a very weird one. In many ways, we won't bog it down with the reality of it. But in regards to the movie world, 2 years ago, I started collecting the ticket stubs of when I went to the theater. And I have a nice little notebook, half filled with ticket stubs that I like to pull out and look at and feel sad about because I've not had the chance to fill it up, and I most likely would have this year. I've said it before on the show. I used to go to the theater at least once a week. It was kind of a nice little relaxing ritual for me. Go there. It doesn't even matter if I was interested in a movie. I could at least bitch about it on my blog or just complain about it to other people, But in 2019, I went and saw 44 new releases the whole year, whether they were streamed or at the movie theater. Most of them were at the movie theater. This year, I saw 15 new releases. 30 fewer.
Damn.
And 8 of those were streamed. And the last movie I watched in movie theaters was Onward back in March, I believe, or maybe late February. Yeah. It was rough. I miss my movie theater, man.
Yeah, I do too. I do miss it too. I have not even attempted to venture out for entertainment purposes anyways.
Yeah.
It has been a strange year.
Oh, by the way, this is Green and Faceless on the couch on the green.
Yeah. And I am the Faceless Leon. This is a podcast about movies and TV. Sometimes, like right now, we talk about real life stuff. So yeah, here we are.
Dang it. Sometimes you forget you're doing a show.
Yeah. I had noticed at a point I was like, but I like what we're doing. Just
that's true.
Going. But I think
and
this is it in right at the right moment.
And it's a special, it's a special episode. The last episode of the year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year's Eve, everybody.
Happy New Year's Eve. I guess it's close enough to actual New Year's Eve, but we are recording this in, near the Ides of December.
Yeah, you love saying that.
I know, it is fun. But we watched 3 movies that were new to this year.
I wanted to pad I'm OCD. I keep lists of everything. If I read a book, I put it down on a list of, the books I've read this year.
Right.
Go ahead and make fun of me in the comments. It's an OCD trait. But I do the same with movies. I watch a movie, I put it down, 2020. I have a list of the movies I've seen. And 12 was a really sad number, so I had to talk you into doing a 2020 threesome with me just so I could pad it to 15 and feel a little better about it.
I didn't realize you had alternative
Motives.
alternative motives. Yeah. But we did. I'm sadly a little sleepy, and it's not even like late at night. Like you might be listening to this for New Year's. I just am sleepy. I'm sorry.
That's
people.
all right. That's all right. That's how I feel like most people are going to be on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Because it's been a long year for everyone, so I feel like most of us are just going to be a little tired.
We are
and
ready for the year to be over. I did venture out to visit my massage therapist, and he said after we were done, he said, I just want to get it right. He said, well, I that's at the end of our time. I want to say happy holidays. Probably won't see you till next year. But for me, next year isn't until January 20th. And I said, oh. And I was like in a daze, and I barely caught it. It took me a couple seconds. I started laughing, and I said, same here, buddy. Same here. Anyhow, we're talking about 3 movies.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we do.
3 movies. Yeah, 3 promising movies, too, I feel. They're all Netflix originals. Sorry, other streaming services. We're talking David Fincher's Mank, Antonio Campos. I've never seen another movie by Antonio Campos, so first movie for me from him. And Antonio Campos is The Devil All the Time. And Aaron Sorkin's The Trial of the Chicago 7. A nice glimpse at the 20th century there.
Yeah, we got, I believe, like the first year in Mank they talk about is 32, I believe.
Maybe.
And
It's
I know
definitely
34. It's definitely they definitely are in 34 and at for the earliest, but like the main. I don't know this story. Okay, I'm kind of getting into the thing, but 32, and then when was the trial for the Chicago 7?
Late. I want to say late 60s, early 70s. No, it wouldn't. I think it was 69.
You may be right. 68.
Nixon's first. Okay, I was
It
going to say Nixon's first year.
For the 1968 Democratic National Convention that they got arrested. So I don't know when the actual trial happened, but probably something that the government tried to expedite.
Definitely a political trial. It'll be a fun one to talk about. But we've decided to go by the years they took place, so that would be starting with Mank.
Excuse me, Mank.
Yes.
You wanna describe Mank?
Sure, I will definitely describe Mank. It's directed by David Fincher and written by his late father, Jack Fincher. He's been trying to get this made, from what I've heard, for quite some time.
Wow.
Probably I want to say at least the better half of a decade, or way more than a decade. But it stars Gary Oldman as Herman J. Mankiewicz, the writer of Citizen Kane, Orson Welles' classic, iconic movie Citizen Kane, and also the uncredited author for many movies. And I said author again.
Yeah. Screenwriter.
The uncredited screenwriter for many movies like Wizard of Oz, which he makes fun of early on in the movie, which I thought was hilarious.
I think.
Yeah, quite a lot. It was pretty funny. And that's the fun thing about this movie is Herman's or Mank's humor. Like he has something to say about everything. He is a writer. He talks and talks and talks. Like
I think they describe it best as him being a court gesture.
Yeah, he definitely becomes that throughout his life.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of that's the story they're trying to tell, is like at the beginning he's a comedian and then he descends into a court jester.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie because of his biggest flaw, which was alcoholism. Um, and I feel like that's one of the beauties of this movie is, you know, it's a look into the life of the screenwriter of Citizen Kane, which itself is, you know, it's a look at the times that was around him. You know, he wrote what he saw. You know, he was friends with William Randolph Hearst, who was a newspaper magnate.
Yeah.
And, you know, Citizen Kane is basically just this guy's life.
Yeah.
And it caused a lot of turmoil in the world because obviously he didn't want that image out there.
Right.
You know, and so there's just a lot of bickering, a lot of fighting, a lot of politics at play, and it all just centered around this alcoholic who was, you know, losing control of his world, his grasp on his world.
Right.
And just like Citizen Kane, you know, or just like Mank's writing, even the story is told very loosely in regards to time, and it also maintains a lot of the humor that Mank's movies had, which, you know, I thought was very well done. It was very respectful to the man.
Yeah, I think so too. It definitely put Mank in a pretty good light, despite, I mean, it definitely highlighted that his alcoholism was a flaw. But the people around him eventually do encourage him to drink.
yeah, he is heavily encouraged to drink by everybody in that world.
But this is the 40s, the 30s rather.
You know, it does put him in a good light, but at the same time, you know, I don't know if it's wrongfully so in doing that. You know, he is a man who personally brought a lot, you know, hundreds of people over from Nazi Germany. You know, he helped them emigrate to America, like financially backed them so that they could have asylum here during that time. And, you know, there is a good moral man underneath all of the drinking and the crass language and humor.
I mean, there's definitely stuff in this movie that I want to talk about, so maybe we will put a wall up eventually, but like there's so many things that Mank tries to do against this guy who is his supposed friend Hertz before he goes and writes this movie.
Yeah.
Because when I say against, it's because he sees that this Hertz character is abusing his power, and he's like,
he's become a hypocrite.
He's become a hypocrite, exactly.
Yeah. He looks at, like, you know, when he started out as a kid, he was a very imaginative, very reach for the stars, you know, vocalist, an orator. And then once he started getting power and money, he became, you know, a crony. He was just like, you know, he's like, don't reach for more than what you're worth.
Right.
He went against everything he was saying as a youth. And Herm saw that story. He saw that, you know, the beauty behind that story and made it into Citizen Kane, which I think this movie does a lot. You know, I feel like we have to talk Citizen Kane to talk this movie a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely do.
You know, I've only seen it twice, and the first time I watched it, I knew nothing about Herman Mankiewicz.
Right.
All I knew was Orson Welles, and I walked away thinking it was an Orson Welles movie. And, you know, and I respect it highly. I think it is a great movie with a beautiful story, kind of dated. You know, when people call it the best movie of all time, for me, the best movie of all time is something I want to return to a lot. It's something I want to watch a lot. And I really want to watch Citizen Kane a lot.
I personally could. I watched it for the first time just this year, a few days before I watched Mank. Which I feel like there's a lot of people who haven't seen it. It's a really old movie. That's that. I don't think we should be surprised that people in our audience haven't seen it. For me, I definitely can go watch it again. I think it's the best made movie from that era that I've seen. And I mean, you know, Wizard of Oz is a good movie. I love that movie. Yeah. I've watched that over and over again.
And when you told me that, I argued that you have to go see 12 Angry Men. So we'll
I haven't
throw
seen
that
12
out there.
Angry Men.
Yeah, I think that, in my opinion, that's even better than Wizard of Oz for me.
Yeah.
But I would honestly say that I think I might like Citizen Kane more than 12 Angry Men. And I'm not saying that I don't think both of them aren't rewatchable.
Right.
Because I will definitely, hands down, if anybody hasn't watched either of these movies and we're like, I'm interested, I'm like, yeah, let's watch it.
Yeah.
You know, because they are really good movies that I do like and I do highly respect.
Mm-hmm.
But me personally, if I were to sit down at night and I'm like, what do I want to watch? You know, I want to watch something I've seen before. I'm not going to come back to these movies for that time. You know, it's like I'm going to watch something that's more personal, more, you know, I'm more entertained by it. Right now, it's The Lighthouse. That's, in my opinion, the best movie of all time right now.
something that you connect to with a little bit more. I totally get that. And for me, Citizen Kane is really just a great window. I barely knew about the Hearst connection when I watched it. And that's, I think, because of Drunk History or whatever that show is called.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that was the second rewatch for me. Was, you know, I watched it the first time completely clueless, and then the second time I went in knowing the background that, you know, Herman Mankiewicz wrote the story and not Orson Welles. Orson did like a minor rewrite, but he wanted to buy credit for it.
Yeah,
because that was how the times were.
I don't think they didn't really show them deciding to work together in Mank, Orson and Mank, that is.
Yeah.
Except for Mank, that Orson came to visit him in the hospital after his car accident, which
and that's where he was just like, I got a job for you.
at the present moment, which I think was probably 39 or 40, whatever it is, when he was actually writing the script. He's 40. In a rehabilitation center. I don't know. It is just him. It's like
it's kind of just like a single home kind of thing.
Yeah, it's him, a nurse, and an assistant, and there's some shenanigans that ensue there, which are pretty fun.
Yeah, and great characters all.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
You know, everybody in this movie does amazing acting. I would highly expect that Gary Oldman gets another Oscar nom, if not another Oscar award for Mank.
Yeah, he did great.
Yeah, really just did. Beautiful performance.
The audio needs a nomination for this film.
Oh yeah, even just the production, like just the production design, which I don't know what the technical, but whoever, you know, the editing needs it. Like the directing needs it. You know, there's so many actors, like supporting cast, but like the technical production of this movie is great. Mm-hmm. It has the cigarette burns of the old film,
which
it has the same. Fun. It was kind of fun just to notice that too, like because I didn't know that going in. I didn't expect.
Me neither.
That the quality of this movie would match the quality of a movie from the 1940s, because that, you know, they shot it how you would shoot a film back in the 1940s, and edited it that way, and it looks, you know, there's times where there'll be jump cuts in the middle of dialogue scenes. You know, it's like a guy will say something, and like wherever they splice the film together, you know, it'll just be a small little jump cut between there, and I was like, that's, you know, it was adorable. It added a lot to the movie, and
sure did.
It was fun to watch.
I feel like I appreciated this movie a lot more having seen Citizen Kane, so I would highly recommend that you do that. Mm-hmm. But if you're really not interested in watching Citizen Kane, I think you could still watch this movie.
Yeah, you don't need to know that story, because this is its own tale.
Yes, it is.
But it definitely, I agree with you. It definitely helps.
It helps you be more involved in this movie, I think. But of course, I didn't watch it without seeing Citizen Kane first. So it could very possibly encourage you to go watch Citizen Kane, which I will encourage you to do as well. It's well worth it, I think. And you know, it is hard to find really older movies that you connect with if you weren't raised in that era. So I think that for that reason alone is a testament that it survives. You said it's a little bit dated. I'll give you that, but I think that people will talk about that movie until there aren't movies anymore.
Yeah, and arguably, whether or not, or whatever your opinion of Orson Welles may be, Citizen Kane is phenomenal performance from him.
Yes, definitely.
So it's he makes that movie incredible, and I liked what they did with him in Mank too. I liked the guy who performed.
I think it was it's Tom Burke.
Tom Burke. Yeah, he did a great job.
He did do a great job.
But there's so many fun characters in, like, we're gonna talk The Trial of Chicago 7 later, and both of these movies just had so many actors in it. It was just like, it felt like Cameo City.
Yeah.
But it's just like, the brother from the Iron Fist television show plays Mank's brother.
Yes, yeah, the guy who played Ward. I don't remember what that
Ward. Thank you. That's
Tom Pelphrey. Tom Pelphrey.
You remember Iron Fist way better than I do.
Yeah. Well, because honestly, like, I thought there was really good elements there. It was just really something was wrong with the execution.
And he was a good element of
it. Yeah, I liked Ward quite a bit, and the whole thing that was going on with his dad, but that just kind of didn't go anywhere. This is secretly our review for Iron Fist.
But that actor, what'd you say his name was? Tom
Pelphrey.
Tom does a great job here as Mank's brother.
Joe.
And the relationship that they tell throughout the years, like there's so many back and forths. They're constantly going back between when he's writing the story in 1940 to what led him to that point throughout the 30s. And as you watch their relationship unfold, it's just a fun tale. As you watch all of his relationships unfold, really, like.
Mank is extremely charismatic. It is kind of sad how addicted to drink he is, because he does have a lot of people who would care about him if he wasn't so belligerently drunk all the time.
Well, it's like, I might have to throw a spoiler wall up for this, like, for the next few seconds here, but it's just like there's one scene where he lays out the story of Citizen Kane, and it's a very powerful scene. He's mocking all these people in this one room. He's explaining to them basically why they're wrong and he's right, and why his story while their story that he's going to tell will just rock the world, and he's explaining it all. But he's doing it while he's so belligerently drunk that he's just making himself a joke.
Yeah. And
that's his story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I don't know, there's so many aspects that play to this movie that, like, it was fascinating to watch it. But at the same time, I think for the average moviegoer, it's important to say that it is a slow movie. It's it's a plotting tale. It's just the drama. It's just this guy's life.
I love the non-linear telling of it. You talked about it a little bit. It's it very well done, and it's kind of mirrors how Citizen Kane was told too. And they talk about the way he writes the narrative, and there's just so many good elements about the industry too. That really intrigued
it's a
me.
good classic Hollywood tale.
Yeah, for sure. One of the better ones. Like, there's been quite a bit of those recently, I feel like. And I feel like this one probably did it the best so far that I've seen.
Did our nostalgia just go from the 80s all the way back to the 30s and 40s? Like,
it's like, yeah,
there have been a lot of
era
those
that we have no reason to be infatuated with. And in fact, it was a pretty hard time to live, especially if you weren't white.
Yeah, that is one of the important parts of this movie too. Is the Great Depression is going on.
Yeah,
and
World War II is ramping up in the background too.
Socialism, which comes to play in another movie we're going to talk about. But it's seen here where Mank is supporting a Democratic candidate,
Sinclair.
Upton Sinclair. Thank you.
Yeah,
who was a socialist, but then became the Democratic candidate for Californian governance.
Yep.
Or governor, and the people that Mank works for were Republican, and one of them,
right.
Louis, I think his name was Louis, right?
Yes, it's Mayor of
Louis Mayer. Yeah,
he's of MGM. I don't remember all their names.
Metro Goldwyn Mayer, which I guess is not what it means. He says it means
he says it means mayors.
Something French for family.
Giant, I don't know. I think it was Yiddish.
Yiddish. Oh shit. That's right. Yeah, I think it was Yiddish. But no, Louis Mayer was, one of the, I think the RNC chairman or something like that of California. So it's just like, Mank was a kind of like a closet Democrat, not so very closet, honestly, but who was working for this higher up Republican, and it just causes so many nice, dramatic, very tense scenes that are definitely easily felt today.
Right.
Because we've become such a divided country in that regard, that I guess like even back in the 30s it was very similar. We haven't changed.
No, we haven't really changed. Well, I mean, there was at some point where the ideals were swapped from the Democratic to the Republican Party, at least seemingly, because at some point the Democratic Party
was around FDR.
It was around FDR.
I feel like it was, because he was like a very progressive.
Well, this
Democrat.
Is the period of FDR, so it would have been this period then. I don't know. It could have been earlier, because wasn't.
Well, LBJ was a Southern Democrat, and I feel like that was a good final divide. I don't know. I don't know political history too well to feel comfortable dissecting it.
Yeah, I feel like the whole Southern Democrat split was a little bit earlier, and then it kind of mended over, but whatever. Moving on. Mank. Do we have more to say about Mank? I feel like we could, but I feel like we could talk about this movie for a really long time, but...
Yeah. I think it's time for closing statements.
Okay.
Did you want to...
Yeah, I'll go first.
Did you want to reveal first?
Yes, I will. This movie is definitely a full-face movie. I really enjoyed it. I think that it deserves accolades. There wasn't really anything I could say could have been done better about it. It might not draw some people in because it is a very slow-paced movie. Mm-hmm. That's what I'll say. But it's great. You should watch it.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It's very, specifically about it being a very slow-paced movie, I give it 3.5 stars, and it loses the half star specifically for its plot. It is a little too slow. For me, that wasn't an issue. I could easily give this 4 stars and not feel bad about it, but I don't know. It's like when I walked away, that did feel like a little bit of a nag I had, was like, all right, they could have picked up the pace a little bit. It doesn't feel as well paced as most Fincher films. Right. But, again, for me, I love this movie. I highly respected it. Felt very loyal to the man, to the time period specifically.
Yes.
Easily one of the better films I've seen this year, but...
Oh, easily. Though my list is much shorter than yours.
And I have no excuse, because there were a lot of movies that came out on streaming, and I just failed them all.
You're okay.
My attitude wasn't in the right spot,
They They will still be there.
Yep, they'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll see them all next year. I just won't talk about them all.
Some of them, I'm sure we'll talk some of them.
Some, sure. But let's move on to the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yes. We left the 30s and 40s. We're going to the era that the Greenie just talked about, and the devil all the time.
The devil all the time.
The devil all the time. Ah.
Another Netflix original.
Yeah, another Netflix original. So, Arvin's daddy put a cross next to a fallen tree and prayed. So this movie is another fairly slow-paced movie, but once this stuff starts happening, it just keeps on happening.
Yeah. And up front, on paper, everything about this movie is right up my alley.
Yeah.
And, I will do my best not to bash religion on the show, but I am, again, an atheist, and at times I have been very rude, and I've been working on it, but I have been very rude to religion. And I feel like this movie is one of the rudest things to religion I've ever seen.
Yeah, kinda. So this movie, it's almost, there's like what I don't know what to say, if it's 2 or 3 acts, but I would say 3. And the first act is almost a completely different movie. But
and it's for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
it's a long first act.
It is.
It's nearly.
I think the first act is very compelling story about this gentleman, Willard. I am not. Do you remember their last name? Russell. Okay. They don't have the last names on IMDb for some reason. Beatty.
Yeah.
God damn it. Anyways.
DB. No, you were right. It was DB. Database.
Damn it. Anyways, Bill Skarsgård plays Willard, and he is a veteran of the Pacific War and World War II, and he has pretty bad PTSD. Thank you. I am man. Dyslexic for the listeners. But
I am too. I understand your struggle. They are a pain for us.
But anyways, he marries this young girl from a diner and moves to, there's 2 different towns, and they do a good job of mirroring the 2 different towns. It's outside of Mead, Ohio. I
don't remember him either, but he is, his family lives in one area. He comes back from the war, right. Has a stop off in one town, falls in love, goes back to his family in a completely different state, and is like, hey, I'm fell in love, I'm moving out to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that 40s tale. You don't have that happen anymore because that's just creepy and weird. But back in the 40s, that was normal.
Yeah, you meet somebody and
fell in love. Two months later, you're married.
There's less. Yeah, a couple months later, you're married. Yeah, Jesus. That doesn't happen anymore for good reasons. Very good reasons.
Yeah.
Though, for all. I mean, we don't get to see their relationship for too long, but Willard and Charlotte's relationship is pretty great. I would say they get along pretty good, especially for the period. And anyways, Willard gets very religious, and when Charlotte gets sick, forces that religion onto their son to try to save his wife, and a lot of things happen.
I think it's important to set up won't spoil what happens.
Right.
But there is a very specific cross-related incident that happens to Willard while fighting in the war.
Right.
That it's like the center of his PTSD. It's very, I don't know how to describe it without spoiling it. It's very crippling to his psyche.
Yes.
And that is the entire basis of his religious beliefs.
Yes.
So a lot of the tragedy of this movie is established from a religion that's not based on the importances of what the religion are, the foundations of the religion. It's based on him needing something to continue.
Yeah.
I guess.
I like that. Yeah. It definitely, like, this symbol of the cross, I think, to clarify what you were talking about, is what sets him off. It's one of his triggers, but he decides. There's just one moment where he just all of a sudden he gets the urge to pray again.
He decides to try to like conquer that.
Yeah, like he needed to conquer his fear. He stayed away from God for too long because of this fear. And
but the problem is him trying to conquer it. It's kind of like he's blind to what he's actually doing.
Yes.
He's trying to build a pearl out of coal and not out of, sand. He's not going about it the right way is what I'm trying to get at.
I do think that it is a bit of a commentary on how faith does affect some people. But really unstable people, I think, is really what the focus is on.
It definitely shows the negative sides of religion, I would say. Like,
it's the effect of blind faith on people who need more stability than that, I would say.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good way to put it.
So anyways, Arvin, the little boy, eventually ends up going to live with his grandmother, who they had planned to visit for a long time anyways. There is also Lenora, who becomes his stepsister and is the daughter of somebody. Her situation is surprisingly similar to, but darker, really. I don't know. There's actually. They're both very dark.
There's a lot of. We're missing a key. I just remembered a key point that we were missing here, and it's when what's his name, Willard. When Willard came back from the war, his mom had made a promise to God that if Willard came home safely, she would marry him off to this neighboring girl,
right? Who
is Lenora's mom,
right?
But when Willard came back, he had different plans. He moved towns. The lady that Willard's mom had promised God Willard would marry, she fell in love with somebody else, who was Dudley Dursley, who was in this movie is a very unstable priest.
Yes, with a fear of spiders.
With a fear of spiders, which is it's a very interesting scene.
It is an interesting scene, and so is their ending scene. I mean, this movie is really hard to talk about without just
it really is without spoiling, because it's a lot of tragedies on top of tragedies, and that's the hardest part about this movie, especially for me. Was there came a moment where the tragedies were incredibly predictable. Sure. Because all this movie it didn't seem like there was a solid progression of anything happening. It was just, what's the next sad thing that could happen?
Sure.
And whatever I could think of is what happened. Just like, oh, I bet this is going to happen to that character. 10 minutes later, that's what's going on. I'm just like, it's a very predictable film, because that's all it is it's trying to hit all of those emotional, tragic moments.
I could agree with you. It's missing something that the characters are gaining to lose again. Which, I mean, they do have that a little bit with him getting this family, or Arvin, that is, in the second act. He has this family with his grandmother, his uncle, and Lenora.
Yeah.
But I don't think that that's lasting long enough. I don't think we get to fall in love with those characters enough.
No.
Before the tragedies start happening again.
Yeah. And, you know, Lenora, because of something that happens to her parents, she comes to live with Willard's mom, as you said. And so Lenora and Arvin grow up as like brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
And Arvin's very protective of her. And he commits, he will beat bullies, and he does, quite a lot of questionable damage to some bullies throughout this movie because of how they treat her.
Yeah, he's following his father's example, which maybe he shouldn't be.
I guess trying to not spoil the story any further than what I've done. For me, what this movie's lacking is just a resounding story. When you get to the end, I'm not rooting for any of these characters. Even though I do feel bad for Arvin, he's not shown himself to be a good character too much. He makes a lot of really, decisions that I'm just like, I understand why he makes them. And Tom Holland does a great job. But it's just, for me, I don't like a lot of these characters. The decisions they make or the choices they get themselves into. I'm just like, it irritates me at each corner because I'm like, it's very realistic.
Yes, it is.
We all make a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And these characters are all just leading themselves along tragedies. Mm. But I could see those tragedies coming, and it makes me so sad when they make these decisions. It was very hard to root for anybody.
So you thought it was a little bit too predictable. Well, I will kind of piggyback off of that to talk about Lenora a little bit, because I think she is one of the few characters that you really can root for.
But see, I disagree because she's so blinded by religion for no reason.
She is extremely pious. Yes.
To the point where like, there's rumors that her dad might have done something to her mom.
Right.
And Tom says something like, would you really forgive him? And she's like, I don't care if you really murdered my mom or not. I'm going to forgive him. And I'm just like, okay, the serial killers I don't think need to be really forgiven, but all right.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, it is to kind of foil her off of Willard. So while he's so blinded by faith that he's willing to do some pretty heinous things, really, while she is blinded by faith in a different direction, a direction that I feel like is, at least from my perspective, I'm more comfortable with. Like, she truly believes she is just a true believer, but she does not expect to get anything out of the religion, where Willard and Lenora's father did.
But the problem is she's so damn forgiving.
She is.
That she doesn't see all of the villainous people in her life, and she allows them to get so close to her that it leads her on her own tragic path.
That is the part where I wanted to talk about the predictability. What happens between her and Robert Pattinson's character, who is Reverend Preston Teagarden. Sounds like a made-up name to me.
Great job there.
But that was very obvious what was going to happen between them. However,
severely.
I did not necessarily see what happens to her at her final bit. I didn't necessarily see that happening. I thought,
I feel like it was obvious for me just because I've read stories like Carrie and other novels about religious pressure on teenage women.
Right.
It's kind of a cliched ending in that regard.
Right. I thought it was going to go the other direction. Quick spoiler, I think I need to. So I guess fast forward like 15 seconds. When she dumped that bucket, there was a long stemmed tool. And I thought she was going to self-abort. I thought that's where it was going.
Oh, gotcha.
I was rooting for her to change her mind after she was on top of the bucket. And that's what she eventually does. But it's too bad, too sad. And that part was predictable.
Yeah, it was fairly. There's two more characters I think that we've missed. There's Jason Clarke.
The B story. Yes.
Who is the woman with Jason Clarke?
Jason Clarke.
He was the serial killer guy.
Oh yes. Her name, the character's name, I think is Sandy. It's Riley Keough. I think it might be Keough. I'm sorry if I
gotcha. And they're like traveling serial killers.
Yeah.
They like to take photos with their victims. She's the sister of the sheriff of one of the two cities.
Knockin' Stiff. That's not right.
Knock 'em Stiff. Yeah, I think it is Knock 'em Stiff. Something like that.
Knockin' Strife.
No, knock them stiff or something like that.
Knockin' Sniff.
Knock 'em Sniff. Get away from the sense of smell. Stiff.
I honestly have trouble saying it. Knockin' Stiff. I think it's Knockin' Stiff.
I think it is Knock 'em Stiff. But it's one of the two cities I think where that this story takes place, right?
Yes, it's the town in Ohio that he was a little boy in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what the Virginia town was called.
Yeah, I don't either, honestly. All these stories just weave together, and it's really nice how they weave them together.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to mention is there are a lot of big name actors in this movie.
Yeah, there are.
And it doesn't, in my opinion, they don't hurt it any. It's like there's so many well-known people. You have Spider-Man, Pennywise the Clown, the current Batman, the Winter Soldier, one of the John Connors. Jason Clarke was John Connor in Terminator Genisys.
Oh yeah, he was.
And you have Dudley Dursley.
Yeah.
Like you have all these pop culture references just tossed into one movie.
Yeah, and they do a really good job as being an ensemble. Like they do a really good job. But
Tom Holland does steal the stage for me. He definitely
does.
Yeah, he was the one performance that leaving this, I thought he did the greatest job out of everybody.
Well, I don't know, man. Bill Skarsgård, I think if there was anyone who competed with him, he's not necessarily a likable character. No. I think he's well intentioned, but when I watch Bill Skarsgård, I think that I see his talent in that he doesn't care necessarily that the camera is there. He is that character.
Yeah, and that is true. Damn,
he really played this World War vet really well.
Yeah, he definitely did a great job. For me, the one character, and agreed, Bill Skarsgård, you're not supposed to like his character, so maybe that's why he doesn't resonate well with me.
Maybe.
But even though I still don't root too much for Tom Holland's character, he is the one I sympathize with the most.
Yeah. I agree.
And I mean, that is the story. The story is meant you're supposed to sympathize for him, but there's just, Tom Holland does a great job at not showing the emotions going through his character's mind. Like his grandfather presents him with with a gun that his father gave his grandfather. Or his uncle.
His uncle, yeah, it's his great uncle.
Sorry, yeah, his uncle gives him a gun that his father had given him a long time ago, and you can tell that his character is, looking at this gun and thinking about the shit that his dad has given him. Right. How much he has tried so hard to get away from his father. Right. He's tried so very hard not to be like his father. But you could see all of that going through his mind. But then he just like, he picks up the gun, and he's just like, thank you. This is, and there's genuine emotion when he's talking to his uncle. He's like, this is the greatest gift anybody's given me. Thank you. And it's like, you can tell he means it to his uncle. He's not going to be rude to his uncle because the thought was there.
Right.
He understands where his uncle's coming from. And it's just like, that's the one scene for me that I was just like, I understand, that was where I think Tom Holland kills it, is, that whole delivery of that scene. It's great. It's good work. And I'm just like, I can't wait to see Tom Holland do more that's not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I love his Spider-Man. I'm not going to deny
I do.
that.
Yeah, his Spider-Man.
He's amazing as
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
My favorite.
But this is the first time outside of the Spider-Man world where I've been like, I can see Tom Holland doing some really great stuff later in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he kills this role. It's really well done.
Yeah, I honestly was pretty surprised at everything in this movie, because honestly, I didn't even recognize that it was a period piece. And then you don't get to see Tom Holland until almost an hour in.
yeah, he is very just half of this movie with him.
Yeah. And I thought really just the storytelling was very, very good. I thought, like you said, there's some predictability to the things that happen, but I like the way that they played with narrative a little bit. They jumped back and forth a little bit between this A and B story through two different time periods, and I thought that was all very well done. And just because it's predictable, I don't think necessarily makes it a bad movie, but there's definitely something to say that there's maybe too much just tragedy after another. And I think like all these tragic events could happen in one movie, but there's just, I feel like they never really ganged something. There's something in those years in between the first and second act where they ganged this family. We don't get to gain it with them. And so when they lose it all, it doesn't hurt as much for us. It's just like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. I think it would be stronger if there was more focus on foreshadowing and symbolism. Because it's not... I agree that there is a strong story here. Mm-hmm. And I do also agree that I like the narrative. I like how they tell this. Like, everything about this movie is something I should like. Right. Again, it's, I love long sagas like this. I love watching stories unfold about families. Yeah. Roots, the Thornbirds. I'm currently reading that. I like those kind of long narrative sagas. And again, it's heavily about religion, which, as an atheist, that stuff fascinates me. And so it's like all the pieces are here. I just feel like it's missing a strong, resounding story, like I said. And I feel like if they had a lot of foreshadowing, like Dickensian symbolism and in their narrative, it would make it so much stronger. But as it is, things just happen and it's sad and predictable. Whereas if they would bury the lead a little bit and foreshadow and make it more artsy, I feel like they would have had a much stronger tale. Which artsy doesn't always work for sagas like this, but I think that's what this film is missing for me, is something
to elevate it a little bit more.
Yeah, like something like great cinematography, or
right.
Not to knock I don't want to knock the cinematography. It's well done. It's just I feel like it needed one more technical element or just storytelling element to just make it really, really ring for me.
Right. I do think I think I've already said it twice, but I think them having something more to lose is really what it's missing for me, because they start the second act at such a low point from our perspective. That's what I have to say. I think that's kind of pretty much my closing statement, really.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that was my closing statement too. I give it 2 stars.
2 stars? Oh wow.
I feel like it had the potential to have so much more, but there's just it was just so hard for me to watch because I feel like, again, I felt like there was so much potential, but I was watching it not grasp at it at all. You know, it was going for all the low hanging fruits with, for me, what was very predictable moments and beats. It didn't ring. It didn't last.
Well, I think that's too bad because I did actually really enjoy watching this movie. But you know, tragedy at one after another, like you said, is not for everybody. That is definitely not for everybody. So I will definitely give that warning up front for people. But I also would recommend this movie. I think that it's worth watching for the performances, and really, like, I think they did a really good job of weaving the stories. Like, it could have been done better, I think, is really what it is for me. But I do give it a full face movie. Yeah, that's what I'll say. That's my closing statement.
I respect that. I understand it completely.
Let's talk about the trial of the Chicago 7.
Dun, dun, dun. And here we are with our final movie that we're going to review of 2020. The Trial of the Chicago 7.
It's a whole trial. There's 7 of them.
7 defendants.
Yeah.
8 technically.
8 technically, and yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. But yeah, why don't you give us a quick synopsis?
Yeah.
Maybe people don't know about this historical event.
Yeah, directed and written by Aaron Sorkin. It's his second directorial movie since Molly's Game, but he is the famous writer of many biopics like The Social Network, Moneyball, Steve Jobs, and now he's writing about the trial of the Chicago 7, which is set in the late 60s, early 70s, 1968 to, I want to say, like 1971-ish, maybe 1970. Might not.
Yeah,
that long.
I don't know. I don't know how long the justice system takes. I'm sure they said dates in the movie.
Yeah. I remember the trial itself was like 150 days or something like that. So 7 people, 8 including Bobby Seale.
Bobby Seale.
8 including Bobby Seale, who is the head of the Black Panther movement. They all conglomerate through their own means. Some of them paired. You know, it's I'm not gonna remember all the characters' names. I'm sorry, but Eddie Redmayne's character and his best friend were part of a group. Sacha Baron Cohen, who is Abby, and his best friend were the leaders of a group. Like, they all just kind of like conglomerate in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, and chaos kind of ensues.
Yes, and they're there
protesters.
They're there to protest specifically the Vietnam War. I know that is especially for Tom Hayden, which is Redmond's character, is about the war.
Yeah, and Tom Hayden was he's very I don't want to say very famous. I didn't honestly know him until this movie, because like I'm not huge into most modern history. Where I was interested as a kid was like Roman history and Greek history, like those old days. And then as I grew older, I'm still very interested in history, but I don't feel like my education growing up was really strong on getting me to remember a lot of important historical moments like this. I feel like we left out a lot of this era when I was educated on this in elementary school and high school.
We definitely lived in an area where the historical teachings, especially about America, were skewed to
and very limited.
Yeah, and very limited. Because they're I think when we were growing up specifically, they were really trying to reinstill patriotism. And there's just a whole bunch of time in the latter part of the 20th century that was just really shitty things happening. People fighting against it. And we talked about it, and we just kind of talked about it like And then the social activists won, and everything's better now. That's the way we were pretty much taught about it.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
My school just sped past it. You know, it's like, I remember we talked about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and just a little bit about the civil rights movement. You know, we probably spent, I think, a week or two on it. Looking back, it was probably a lot longer. You know, as a child, you don't always remember events correctly. But for me, it felt like a very short period of time was spent on teaching this time period. So this film was very interesting for me because I hadn't heard much about it. And, you know, this whole tangent started because I was saying that Tom Hayden, he was a pallbearer for John F. Kennedy. Yeah. You know, he was a face of the political movement at the time that people thought he was going to go places. You know, he was a very vocal. He had a movement behind him of young Democrats, and that's what a lot of it was a lot of young protesters. You know, just this young the yippie, as Abby and his friend, they're the part of the yippie group. You know, and they're just there to protest. They didn't want to be violent. And a lot of the arguments of this film is, you know, whether or not, you know, there's the moment of, did the cops start the protest? Were the protesters the one who got violent first? Was it incited either way? You know, because the protest got violent. The cops and the protesters, you know, the cops used tear gas. They beat up a lot of protesters. I'm sure a lot of cops were probably hurt in the protests as well. This film definitely does not go into their side of it too much. It is a skewed film, I should say. But I think at the same time, I don't think this film is too skewed.
No, I don't think so at all, because there was some crazy, wicked, totalitarian shit going on.
Definitely. Like, they show, you know, the film, like most Aaron Sorkin and biopic like films like this, opens up with like a newsreel of what's going on at the time. And there's a moment where they show Walter Cronkite, and he's just like, I don't know how any other way to say it, but Chicago's in a police state. And it's just like, you know, it's, you know, as a kid, again, we didn't talk about these protests too much in my school. And to like see a lot of the stuff that these cops were doing, like, I'm sure it was dramatized probably a little bit, but like, to see, you know, them like standing in guard like that was kind of scary. Like, I was like, oh my God, if I were to like go outside and see that, I might poop my pants.
I believe a good reason to talk about this film is that it is very relevant of what's going on today. I just said earlier, when we were growing up, we were kind of raised that the social activists won and everything's okay now. Yeah. Now, as adults, we know it's a lot more complicated than that. And while things were a little bit better, they heated up again. And it is bad.
Yeah. And we grew up in a very sheltered, rural, you know, Midwestern area. When we talk like the social movement and everything, my school was mostly white. You know, it was like probably 98, 99% white. That's probably very bad statistics. So it's probably like 95% or less, but it felt mostly like there was not much diversity to be had. And so again, as you said, when we were taught this stuff, it was just that. It's like, it's, you know, we're all happy now. And then we both came to a very, very diverse city when we went to college. And for me especially, like, it opened my mind up to a lot of things that I just didn't know growing up. And I'm really happy it did. You know, it definitely changed the path of who I was going to be.
Right. I totally agree with you. Yeah. I feel like there was some things, we talked about this a little bit in Get Out. There were some instances where I immediately realized after the situation happened that I did something that hurt somebody. And so I was already like a little bit trying to figure out what the world is really like beyond my country white boy lens. And being at university really helped me just try to be as empathetic as possible. I mean, there was still definitely plenty of moments where I put my foot way up my ass and then through my mouth.
Yeah, we still have a long way to go, but we're on the path.
Definitely.
You know.
I think so too. Yeah, it's all about education, really. It really is. If you want to learn how to be a better person, start learning about other people.
Yeah, and listen.
That is my PSA. Yeah, and listen. Yes, dear. Yes.
But with the trial of the Chicago 7, say that 5 times fast. It brings a lot of that, that vocal points of the late 60s, again, Bobby Seale, the civil rights movement's going on. Bobby Seale's the leader of the Black Panther movement. Malcolm X has been assassinated. Martin Luther King Jr. has been assassinated.
Well, I just want to kind of clarify that I don't think they had anything to do with the Black Panthers. I don't think you were trying to say that, but it kind of sounded like you were.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying, like, after these inspirational figureheads have been assassinated, he is in a very dangerous spot in his life because he's been accused of murdering a policeman in Connecticut. He's already on trial for that. Well, he will be on trial for that. And then he went to Chicago just to make a speech.
Right, and this is actually before he got arrested. Yeah. The speech is before he got arrested for that murder.
No, thank you for clarifying that because I didn't know that, honestly. But like he gets arrested from when he went to the because of the protests and everything, because he was just basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. And when the trial happens, when it starts, his lawyer is undergoing gallbladder surgery, and they requested a delayed date.
Right.
But the judge, who is amazingly played by Frank Langella,
he does a good job, but I hate him.
Just an asshole. But he always
not Frank. Julius Hoffman.
He was like Julius Hoffman. Kind of a blundering old man, just terrible. Yeah, unfit to judge.
Unfit.
But the judge denies, to delay the date until his lawyer is able to be there, and for I can't remember why, but they refused to let Mark Rylance, who is the defender for the Chicago 7.
That was under his character's recommendation. William Kunstler is his name. I think, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he was pretty famous throughout the period for being the defending attorney for civil rights people. But he recommended that he did not allow Bobby Seale to be represented by him because he wanted to prove that Bobby Seale was separate from these 7.
Because he was separate. He wasn't part of the protest. But watching how the court treats Bobby Seale throughout the trial is just horrendous. Like it gets to a heated point. And I know I did just a very minimal amount of research on this movie. I know that some of the dates are out of place throughout the telling of this story. Aaron Sorkin took liberties, with the narrative, as is his right to do when you're retelling a story like this. But I know that there's been some complaints about his, how he told the tales. But in the movie, it all accumulates to Bobby Seale getting literally bound and gagged in the courtroom. And just because, he was trying to, defend himself because he didn't have a lawyer, and the judge was refusing to allow him to get legal advice. And it's gross to see a lot of that racial tension play out throughout this film. And it also happens with the Chicago 7 too, because not in regards to race, but Abby and who's his friend? Who's the other leader of the Yippies? He's played by Jeremy Strong, I think.
Jerry Rubin.
Rubin, thank you.
Jerry Rubin is the
they're young. They're Yippies. They're young stoners. They're part of that movement, and nobody takes them seriously, even though they are both very intelligent men who, they have people who follow them for a reason. It's not just because they're comedians and stoners and like, funny, haha people. They actually have something to stand for. They have a purpose. They have a message they're trying to get across. And, it's just because they smoke weed, it doesn't negate their intelligence at all, which is something, Thomas Hayden and them are constantly fighting with throughout the movie too.
Yeah. And there is a pretty good moment where the two groups kind of all of a sudden respect each other. I'm not sure if they're actually a part of the same organization, just different chapters. I can't quite recall that, but
Who?
Redmayne's character and
Abby,
Sacha Baron Cohen's character.
No, they're not part of the same. I mean, they might be different chapters, but I don't think they're part of the same group.
I'm not sure. I know they don't work directly together typically, but at some point in the movie is a pretty good moment that could have been done a little bit better, where Abby shows how much he actually respects Tom Hayden.
Yeah, because he's read everything he's done.
I thought that was he's read everything he's done.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a good leader. He just wishes that he would jump on the cultural side of the war that he thinks they're fighting.
Because that's the fear of Tom Hayden throughout the movie, is he's looking at this as my trial. This is, if we fail, I go to prison. If we win, I don't go to prison. He's worried about that. Whereas the others see it as a political trial. It's not just about them. It's about the statement. It means something more.
Right.
And I really like that, but I agree. I do think there were a lot of things about this film that could have been done better. Specifically the editing. It could have been done.
Yeah. I don't really recall what problems I would have with the editing particularly.
Well, my one main one was when Sacha Baron Cohen's character is on trial, when Abby is on the stand, and he's explaining what Eddie Redmayne's character meant when he said a certain phrase that they're talking about.
Right.
And the prosecuting lawyer asks him a question, and Sacha Baron Cohen sits there in silence, and he's like, "Well, are you going to answer the question?" He's like, "Well, I've never been on trial for my thoughts before," and that's the end of the scene. You don't hear his answer. That's the end of the scene. They go to, it's like trial day 151. They go to the next scene. I'm like, that wasn't the end of the scene. There's so many moments in this movie where it just kind of felt like they either cut too soon, or it was, where Mank is nonlinear, but it feels perfectly nonlinear. There's a lot of moments in this film where I just get confused by the events because of its nonlinear.
Yeah, I could say that somebody could easily get confused watching this. One thing that I did not like so much, I don't think we mentioned Yahya Abdul-Mateen II plays Bobby Seale. Mm-hmm. And he does a great job, I think.
He's amazing.
But when
better than the Black Manta performance.
What's that?
I said it was better than his Black Manta performance, and I really liked it. I really liked his Black Manta performance, but
I honestly, I remember seeing that movie, but I can't recall nary a thing about it.
Even though I like superhero movies, I like seeing the actors who are kind of like, they use that as a platform to like jump off to better roles. Right. I love seeing them break free from those roles. I won't deny that I'm excited to see Yahya Abdul-Mateen II play Black Manta. Reprise that role. But seeing him here, seeing him actually do a powerful role, this was great. Like he killed it.
He did a great job. What I was about to say is it made sense for the movie, but I still wanted more from Bobby Seale's character. Yeah. But after Bobby Seale's trial, his part of the trial went mistrial, because he really had no reason to be there, and he was being mistreated as hell.
And I feel, and again, I don't know the historical accuracy of this. I hope it's true. But the prosecuting lawyer, who's played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he didn't like what was going on with Bobby Seale. Like he approached the court with the defending lawyers and was like, "I declare that you declare Bobby Seale a mistrial. Sorry, that's spoilers for the movie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but like I hope
a little bit, but it's also a historical event.
Yeah,
so
I hope that's historically accurate, because that was like one of the I really did. I understood Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character.
Yeah, I did too. He was definitely he had a respect for Hayden particularly, and some of the other defendants, but he's staunchly conservative, and staunchly believes that they should go to jail, for the riots.
And he's just just doing his job. He's been assigned this job. Sorry, that was a tangent. You were talking about how they treated Bobby Seale's character, because I agree. Because after his stuff is declared mistrial, he's just gone. They don't even give like a. I think they give like a small blurb. He gets a
slide at the end.
Yeah,
a slide in the credits.
All historical biopics end that way.
Right, exactly.
Which I don't like. But...
I think that they could have went into him a little bit more, but also I understand that the movie is focused on the trial, so I guess it makes sense. But like, he was such a strong character, and a lot of the really eye-opening things that happened in the trial happened with him. So it was kind of sad to see that element just go away from the film.
Agreed. I wish they would have worked it in somehow. Like, I feel like you could have figured out, but who knows? Maybe there was, I don't know. Maybe they tried, but maybe the movie was pushing like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and they're like, we have to just stick to the trial.
Maybe.
But I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, as one of the better actors in this film, and as one of the more compelling stories, I wish they had, delivered more on his ending.
I really feel like they could have gone into the defendants in general a little bit more. Like their lives and how they were, and their works, really more their works.
That's fair.
What they were doing to try to change the world. I wish they went more into that.
I agree with that, because Thomas Hayden seems like a very prominent character, but they don't explain really why, because they don't go into his works. They don't go into what
exactly.
They mention what he's doing, but I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think they do a good job at establishing all of these characters, but I do think they should have dove in a little more into their psychologies.
Definitely. I would also really like to see more about Abby Hoffman, because he was a very interesting character too. And another thing is, like, the two like main characters of this movie about American history are played by English guys.
But English guys who do amazing jobs. They
did do a great job.
To again foreshadow our coming playlist that you will see in the next year. In February, we're going to be talking James Bond, and we talk about what actors could play James Bond. And I threw out Michael B. Jordan, and you were like, "No, the actor has to be English." English guys keep taking American guys' roles. Why can't an American guy take an English guy's role?
You're right, and you know why? At least this is what I heard a long time back, is that they typically would work cheaper than American actors.
Probably, yeah. Our unions are...
I don't know if that's true anymore.
Yeah. Who knows? But it is funny to look at. But at the same time, I'm gonna say that up there with Yaya, Eddie Redmayne and Sacha Baron Cohen, they are like two of the greatest performances in this film. It's Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Eddie Redmayne, Sacha Baron Cohen, and Mark Rylance. In my opinion, they deliver powerful performances. They're all so good. And Frank Langella, again, even though you don't like him,
exactly.
And by you I mean the watcher. Even though the viewer is designed to hate this character,
you're supposed to hate him.
He does a great job at it.
I think he could have, if they need to ever have Saruman again.
Frank Langella.
I think he could do it.
Yeah. He does a good villain. I remember there's this garbage movie called The Box. It's based off Richard Matheson's The Box.
I remember, yeah.
It's so bad, but I remember that Frank was like the one thing about that movie. I was like, ooh, he's sinister. I like him.
Yeah, he was good. That was like the thing that really kind of tipped me off to him, actually.
Yeah, I think
And
so
I don't
too.
think I ever actually finished that movie because I think at some point I was like, I don't know if I care
I think that was a
what
movie that
goes on in this
my
movie.
parents dropped me off at the theater, and I watched it while they watched their own movie, and then so like I had to just sit through it all. I remember like got back in the car, and
uh,
my mom was like, "How was your movie?" And I was like, "It sucked."
oh no. All right, so I guess we could do closing statements then. I think I mean I really want to talk more about all of these movies, but we've talked quite a bit.
Yeah, we still have a 2020 wrap up to do, which won't take too long. But yeah, I agree. Closing
Okay.
statements. Trial of Chicago 7. I definitely recommend it. I think it's a very important moment of history that there's a lot of focus on that time period, and I think this is a new another story out of that doesn't get a lot of attention. Very good performances. Great directing from
Yeah.
Aaron Sorkin. I think again, some scenes, it definitely needed a lot more, not a lot more work, but it definitely needed some more work to make it a little more compelling and lasting. But very respectable and very enjoyable movie. I gave it, it's another 3.5 stars.
That's good. That's pretty good. Yeah, I do think that it's worth watching for the historical contents, but as an entertaining movie, I think that there's other movies that have done this courtroom historical drama better.
Agreed.
That's what I will say. But so I think I already said Full Face. 3 Full Face movies, and you know what? Yeah, I think I'm ready to do Who Wins.
Yeah, we have 2 finales planned here. Let's do Who Wins the 2020 threesome, and then we'll do what was our favorite movie of 2020. But
all right,
of this threesome,
so
Faceless Leon, who wins this threesome?
I think it was Mank. I personally was kind of tied for a little bit right after I finished The Devil All the Time because I was really drawn into the performances of that. But honestly, I think I would, if we would allow for me to change the rating I gave Mank, I want to give it a face and a half. I think that's probably like the highest rating that a movie will get from my face ranking because it's only supposed to be a full face, but it's a face and a half movie. So yeah, Mank wins for me. What do you think?
Yeah, Mank wins also. I hope I didn't skew your Devil All the Time too far because that was just, I understand why people would enjoy that, and I do think people will enjoy it, and I respect your opinion on it. But for me, Mank is just a more, it's better made film.
That is it for me.
Yeah. It's like I do respect all 3 of these films, but for me, Mank went above and beyond. It told a great story. Amazing performance from Gary Oldman. Amazing performances in all 3 films, but
right.
I don't know. I feel like Mank rings more with me than the other 2. It'll last more with me.
It just has so many more elements to it that make it a better movie. Just the production, the way it was edited, and
Trent Reznor did the music.
Yeah,
from Nine Inch Nails.
That's pretty interesting.
He's done a lot of David Fincher movies, honestly.
It's good. Definitely it did have a good score.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the story of this threesome for me, is that I was honestly a little disappointed in the trial for the Chicago 7. I thought it had a lot more potential. Not that it was a bad movie though.
Yeah.
And for The Devil All the Time, that kind of really surprised me. I did not expect. I really didn't know anything about what was going to happen in the film when I started watching it though.
Yeah.
So all 3 wonderful movies. Good way to end the year. What do you think?
So
for what you got here for
again, 2020 there were 15 movies. It's a very limited list for me. Typically 40 movies or 50 movies even for a year in regards to new releases only, that is. So 15 is a very small pool to pick from. And honestly, looking back at this whole year, I should have known what awaited all of us because the very first movie I watched in theaters was Dolittle, and like that was such a shit fire. It should have been the only foreshadowing I needed for what was about to happen. But I don't know. It was really hard for me to choose a favorite because there's Da 5 Bloods, which is another Netflix. It was the last. I think it's the last movie that Chadwick Boseman was in.
I did not see that.
It's very good, very powerful movie about 4 soldiers from Vietnam who returned there to try to reclaim a treasure. And, it's a very good movie, but it wasn't, there was no great movie this year. I didn't give any movie a 4-star rating, which, again, this is the first time I've ever done that, since my blog started back in 2010 to now. That's the first time I haven't given a 4-star rating in a year. So it's really hard for me. But, like films like Mank and all those, there's a lot of films I respect, but I think, honestly, again, greatest movie for me goes down to what am I going to return to? What am I going to rewatch the most? And the one movie this year that I think I would return to the most is the one that rang emotionally the most, and that's Onward. Pixar's Onward.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, it's not an impressive, it's not impressive. It's not, the greatest animation or the greatest thing Pixar's ever put out, but it rang a lot about brotherhood, and that's that's very important to me. You and our other good friend up in Michigan, and your wife, of course.
Yeah,
you're all you're my trio of brothers, and that movie rang emotionally, because of that. And I think I honestly have to say that I think Onward was my favorite film of the year.
That's nice, and I have to say the D&D element really added for me too towards that brotherly, our particular brand of brotherly love. I don't know. That was a particularly good movie, but I have to say, I kind of had almost forgotten about it until you brought it up a little bit earlier. I did really enjoy watching that movie. But I think maybe because it's the freshest and because my list is a lot shorter than yours. I think I definitely have a couple that you haven't watched that I watched from this year. I just watched Jingle Jangle today, which it did surprise me. It's Forrest Whitaker Christmas musical, and there's some really good fun elements in there, and I do recommend people to watch that this season before you're super tired of Christmas. And anyhow, I think though I would give it to Mank. I mean nice. I was really happy with that movie, and I was really happy with the movie that it's based off of too.
Yeah,
and I watched both of those this just recently.
Nice.
That's what I have to say.
You made all the film critics in the world happy, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think.
No, honestly,
probably
Mank was gonna be mine too, but I don't know. The more I thought about it, Mank is a very close second. Honestly, Onward is not a better movie than Mank.
You just liked it more.
Yeah, it just rang more with me, I guess.
Right.
But at the same time, I do think Mank is the best made film and the best movie. I think it might win Best Picture, maybe. Who knows?
It might. Yeah. I mean,
it's gonna be a weird
I don't
Oscar.
really know what would go up to against it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a weird year for Oscars, so that's gonna be fun to watch.
It will be. Yeah, you know what? We should maybe do an episode about the Oscars.
Yeah, we could.
Just maybe talk about the awards afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or we could toss up predictions and be completely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
All we're doing is making fools of ourselves on the internet, so let's just make ourselves even bigger fools.
Yeah.
Let's get zero out of all of our predictions for the year.
Yeah. So, you know what? It is our New Year's episode. So maybe we should do some resolutions. What do you think?
Oh God. Put me resolutions in regard for this show or for us personally?
Sure, for this show. Yeah, sure. I resolved for this show in particular to do 2 episodes a week.
You cheap son of a bitch.
So next year, starting in January, we are gonna do 2 episodes a week,
Yes.
Monday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you guys enjoy that. The Monday episodes will all be playlist.
Yeah,
they'll
be much shorter than our
Thursday.
hour and a half Thursday episodes, or hour-long episodes too. You know, we don't always do uber long ones, but
what's time?
Fuck it.
Yeah,
you got to go to sleep somehow, right? Just put us on and listen to us.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Let our dulcet tones take you into a beautiful slumberland.
Yeah, into the new year. Well, is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Or did you have a resolution?
Oh, yeah, I was supposed to make a resolution for the show, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Damn, that was going to be mine, was to do the 2 shows. I was like, he's not going to think of that. No, I want to continue delivering better content. You know, we have a lot to improve upon, and I hope we just continue to get better and better.
Me too. And I hope that people out there are enjoying it. I've been the Faceless Leon.
And I am, and we shall be the Green Traveler.
So you're like Legion then. You got several in there, huh?
We're a spreading alien race.
I see.
That's my new resolution, actually, is to create backstories for us like that.
Okay, that's fun. I like that. Yeah. There'll be Green and Faceless comic book.
Ooh. Give us a completely different structure to the show, where it's like, instead of just 2 white guys talking on the couch, I'm literally a green alien and you're a faceless man who can somehow talk telepathically. Yes.
I talk telepathically through this microphone. But damn, I had something. It's gone now. And so is this year.
Yay!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Finally.
Fuck you, 2020. Oh, there's a lot of negative stuff throughout this whole year, but there's also a lot of good positives. There's a couple weekends, some good bonding moments with friends and family. This show,
for sure.
We started
carving turnips.
Carving turnips, that was fun. We started this show.
I started work on another show, which I don't know if we've plugged that yet. It will be coming out on January 19th. It'd be The Adventures in Valagorn. It is a fantasy, comedy, fictional series coming your way.
A radio show.
Definitely share links for that and stuff on our Facebook.
A radio show brought to you by RKO Pictures through FictionWorks 19.
Yeah, we decided to start off right where Disney and Orson Welles did. So here we are at last. Safe travels. Good night. Do you thirst for adventure? Do you search for laughter and friendship?
Ha 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 ha!
Then don't miss the Adventures in Valagorn! Welcome to a new world of fantasy, fun, and action! Coming to you as a monthly serial starting on January 19th of 2021. And brought to you by the imaginative people of FictionWorks 19. Starring Greg Callahan as Raphael Anastas Magoo, Sarah Christ as Vashti Whisperwind, and Kenneth Glynn as Pai Sho Wukong. We'll see you in Valagorn. The Adventures in Valagorn. Hey there, couch potatoes. This is the Faceless Leon here. Tell you about our new addition to the show. We will be bringing to you 2 episodes a week, starting on Monday the 4th of January, 2021. I'll tell you, thank you for letting that year be over. We're going to bring in the new year nice and strong, 2 episodes a week. Do our regular thing Thursday, nothing's changing there, but on Mondays, we are now going to be bringing to you playlists. We're going to start off with watching the Disney movies, the OG Disney movies from chronological order. We'll break it up there with some other things. Who knows what we might do? But we're looking at some long series of movies. Anyways, we hope that you, the listener, the potatoes at home, enjoy it. Safe travels. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of FictionWorks 19. If you liked the show, please leave a review, like, follow, or subscribe wherever you listen. This will help us grow our show. Be sure to visit us at facebook.com/greenandfaceless. There you'll find many links to our show and to our website. Thank you all very much for listening.